Imagine it's your wedding day, and you discover that your partner's family has a dark history of racism. Now, picture yourself as a black individual facing this revelation. Hi there, welcome to your own channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications for more inspiring and thought-provoking stories. The beginning of Something Beautiful Life has a peculiar way of introducing us to love when we least expect it. For Sarah Johnson, that moment came on a seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning at the Riverside Rehabilitation Center in Atlanta, Georgia. The autumn sun was streaming through the large windows, casting warm patterns on the polished floors where she had spent the last 3 years helping patients rebuild their lives. Sarah wasn't just any physical therapist. She was known throughout Atlanta as the miracle worker, the one who could coax movement from the stiffest joints and hope from the most discouraged hearts. Her colleagues often joked that her smile could heal better than any medicine, and her patients swore by her gentle yet determined approach to rehabilitation. That particular morning, Sarah was reviewing her patient files when her supervisor, Dr. Martinez, knocked on her office door. "Sarah, I have a special case for you," he said, holding out a thick manila folder. "Michael Roberts, 32, motorcycle accident victim. He's been through 3 other therapy centers, but—" Dr. Martinez paused, shaking his head. "No one's been able to break through to him." Sarah took the file, her dark fingers tracing the edges as she read through Michael's history. Former marathon runner, outdoor photographer, adventure enthusiast, until one rainy night changed everything. The accident had left him paralyzed from the waist down, and according to the notes, he had all but given up on therapy. When Michael wheeled into her therapy room later that morning, Sarah was struck by 2 things: the defeated slump of his shoulders and the unexpected spark of intelligence in his eyes. He was different from what she had imagined, younger, with kind features and hands that spoke of creativity and purpose. "So," he said, his voice carrying a hint of sarcasm, "you're the famous Sarah Johnson who's supposed to work miracles?" His attempt at maintaining a defensive wall was transparent to her trained eye. She'd seen it countless times before. But what happened next would alter both their lives forever. Instead of launching into her usual professional spiel, Sarah pulled up a chair and sat directly in front of him, their eyes level. "No miracles today, Mr. Roberts," she said with a warm smile. "Just 2 people figuring out what's possible when we refuse to let fear win." Something in her words, or perhaps her tone, made Michael's carefully constructed barriers waver. For the first time in months, he found himself truly looking at someone, seeing beyond his own pain. Sarah's face held no pity, no judgment, just an unwavering belief in possibility. Their first session was unlike any either had experienced before. As Sarah helped Michael through his exercises, they discovered a shared love for photography. He spoke of the landscapes he used to capture, and she shared stories of her own amateur attempts at street photography. The hour flew by, punctuated by genuine laughter, a sound that surprised even Michael. What neither realized in that moment was how this initial meeting would spiral into something far more significant. Sarah's approach wasn't just about physical therapy. She believed in healing the spirit alongside the body. She would bring in photography magazines during their sessions, engaging Michael in discussions about composition and lighting while working on his upper body strength. Days turned into weeks, and their professional relationship began to shift. Sarah found herself looking forward to their sessions more than any others, and Michael started arriving early, often with a new photography book to share. The other therapists noticed the change in him. The return of his smile, the way he began to engage with other patients, sharing tips and encouragement. It was during their 6th week together when something unexpected happened. Sarah was helping Michael with a particularly challenging exercise when he suddenly grabbed her hand. The touch sent an electric current through both of them, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. Their eyes met, and in that instant they both knew their relationship had crossed an invisible line. But it wasn't just about attraction. Sarah saw in Michael a spirit that refused to be defined by circumstances, a mind that remained sharp and curious despite physical limitations. And Michael found in Sarah someone who saw him as a whole person, not just a patient or a disability. The weeks that followed were filled with small moments that built an unshakable foundation: shared lunches in the hospital courtyard, lengthy discussions about art and life, and the gradual realization that they had found something rare and precious. Their professional relationship had blossomed into a deep friendship, teetering on the edge of something more. Neither of them had planned for this. Sarah had always maintained strict boundaries with her patients, and Michael had convinced himself that love wasn't in the cards for him anymore. Yet here they were, defying their own expectations and those of everyone around them. The moment that truly changed everything came 3 months into their sessions. Michael had made remarkable progress, not just physically, but emotionally. After a particularly successful therapy session, he asked Sarah if she would help him with a special photography project. She agreed, not knowing that this simple yes would lead them down a path neither had imagined possible. Their story was just beginning, but already it was clear that this was no ordinary therapeutic relationship. It was the start of a journey that would challenge perceptions, break down barriers, and prove that love truly knows no boundaries. For Sarah and Michael, that ordinary Tuesday morning had become the first chapter of an extraordinary love story, breaking through society's barriers. News of Sarah and Michael's relationship spread through the Riverside Rehabilitation Center like wildfire. The whispers started in the break room, traveled down the sterile hallways, and eventually reached the ears of both their families. Their love story, beautiful as it was, suddenly became a target for society's deepest-rooted prejudices and misconceptions. Sarah's mother, Patricia, a proud woman who had marched for civil rights in her youth, was surprisingly the first to voice her concerns. "Baby," she said during their weekly Sunday dinner, "are you sure about this? Life is already hard enough for a black woman in this world, adding his condition to the mix." She left the sentence hanging heavy with unspoken worries. Michael's family, particularly his older brother James, approached their relationship with barely concealed skepticism. "This isn't some Florence Nightingale syndrome?" he asked Michael during a private moment. "She's not just feeling sorry for you?" The questions stung, but Michael understood they came from a place of protective love, however misguided. The challenges they faced weren't limited to family concerns. During their first public date at a high-end restaurant in downtown Atlanta, they encountered stares that ranged from curious to openly hostile. The maitre d' initially tried to seat them in a back corner, away from other diners, until Michael firmly requested a table by the window. Sarah watched with admiration as he handled the situation with dignity and grace. Their social media announcement of their relationship brought both beautiful support and ugly commentary. Some accused Sarah of having a savior complex, while others questioned Michael's ability to be a real man in the relationship. The cruelty of strangers behind keyboards could have poisoned their joy, but instead it strengthened their resolve. Dr. Martinez, Sarah's supervisor, called her into his office one morning. "Sarah," he began carefully, "some patients have requested to switch therapists. They're uncomfortable with the situation." Sarah felt her heart sink, but her voice remained steady as she replied, "Their loss, Doctor. Martinez, I won't apologize for loving someone who makes me better." Michael faced his own battles at the local photography club he had recently rejoined. Some members awkwardly avoided him, while others spoke to Sarah instead of him, as if his wheelchair had somehow diminished his ability to engage in conversation. But everything changed when he displayed his latest photography series, stunning portraits of Sarah in various settings, capturing her strength and beauty in ways that left the club members speechless. The couple found unexpected allies, too. Sarah's youngest sister, Maya, became their fiercest defender, shutting down negative comments on social media and organizing double dates to help normalize their relationship in their social circle. Michael's physical therapy group became a strong support system, celebrating their love story as a beacon of hope. They learned to navigate public spaces together, developing a silent language of support. When someone stared too long at Michael's wheelchair, Sarah would squeeze his hand 3 times, their private code for "I love you." When Sarah encountered racist microaggressions, Michael would find ways to showcase her brilliance, proudly introducing her as "my girlfriend," the talented physical therapist who's revolutionizing rehabilitation techniques. Their love became a topic of discussion at the hospital's diversity and inclusion meetings. Sarah was asked to speak about breaking down barriers in healthcare relationships, while Michael contributed virtually to panels about disability rights and representation. Together, they were changing minds and hearts, one conversation at a time. The turning point in their family's acceptance came during a joint Sunday dinner. Patricia watched as Michael helped Sarah cook, expertly chopping vegetables from his wheelchair, while Sarah danced around the kitchen to soul music. James observed how his brother laughed more freely than he had since the accident. The love between them was palpable, transcending physical limitations and social prejudices. Through it all, Sarah and Michael's bond grew stronger. They learned to face prejudice with grace, ignorance with education, and hatred with an abundance of love. Their relationship became a testament to the power of seeing beyond society's narrow definitions of what makes a couple compatible. In their quiet moments together, they often reflected on how their challenges had shaped them. "You know," Michael would say, holding Sarah close, "every obstacle we face just proves we're meant to be together." And Sarah would smile, knowing that their love story was rewriting society's rules about what it means to be in love. Their journey wasn't just about breaking through society's barriers, it was about dismantling them entirely, creating a new narrative about love, ability, and race. They became living proof that when hearts connect, superficial differences fade away, leaving only the pure, unshakable truth of love. A proposal like no other planning. The perfect proposal took Michael 3 months of secret preparations, countless whispered phone calls, and a network of conspirators that grew larger by the day. He wanted to create a moment that would not only surprise Sarah, but would also celebrate the unique journey of their love story. The idea came to him during one of their late-night conversations, when Sarah mentioned how dance had been her passion before dedicating herself to physical therapy. "Sometimes," she had said, her eyes distant with memory, "I still dream about performing, about the way music can make a body speak without words." That confession sparked something in Michael's mind, a vision of a proposal that would combine their shared love of art, movement, and breaking boundaries. He reached out to Jasmine, a choreographer friend of Sarah's from college, who now ran an inclusive dance company that featured both able-bodied dancers and performers with disabilities. When Michael shared his vision, Jasmine's eyes lit up. "This isn't just going to be a proposal," she declared. "This is going to be a statement about love having no limitations." The next few months became an intricate dance of deception. Michael told Sarah he was attending extra physical therapy sessions, when in reality he was working with Jasmine's dancers. They chose Central Park's Bethesda Fountain as their stage, the place where Michael and Sarah had shared their first kiss during a photography expedition. The dancers came from all walks of life: a former ballerina who now danced in her wheelchair, a deaf performer who felt the music through vibrations, veterans who had found healing through movement, and traditional dancers who believed in the power of inclusive art. Together, they created a routine to At Last by Etta James, the song that had been playing in the rehabilitation center the first time Michael made Sarah laugh. The weather forecast for October 15th called for rain, but Michael refused to postpone. "Our love wasn't built on perfect conditions," he told the anxious dancers during their final rehearsal. "A little rain won't stop us." He had worked with a jeweler to design a ring that told their story, a black diamond surrounded by smaller stones, arranged in a pattern that mimicked the constellation visible on the night they first said, "I love you." Sarah suspected nothing when Michael suggested a sunset photo shoot in Central Park. She arrived wearing a burgundy dress that caught the autumn light, camera in hand, ready to capture the golden hour. The first hints of music drew her attention to the fountain, where a single dancer in a wheelchair began to move. One by one, more dancers emerged from different directions, their movements telling a story of barriers broken and love triumphant. The crowd of park-goers grew, phones raised to capture the moment as the dancers created living art around the fountain. Sarah stood, transfixed, her camera forgotten at her side, tears streaming down her face as she recognized the song. The dancers formed an aisle leading to the fountain, where Michael waited. He had worked with his physical therapist to strengthen his arms for this moment, ensuring he could guide his wheelchair smoothly to the woman he loved. As he approached Sarah, the dancers continued their fluid movements, creating a backdrop of perpetual motion and grace. "Sarah Johnson," Michael began, his voice carrying across the now silent crowd. "You saw me when I had forgotten how to see myself. You taught me that love doesn't need fixed conditions to grow. It just needs two hearts willing to beat in sync." He reached into his jacket pocket, revealing the ring box. "Every day with you has been a dance, sometimes graceful, sometimes challenging, but always beautiful. You've shown me that life's greatest adventures don't require standing up. They require standing strong." Michael's voice wavered with emotion as he opened the ring box. "Will you continue this dance with me, as my wife, my partner, my home?" Sarah fell to her knees beside his wheelchair, bringing them eye to eye. The dancers continued their silent performance, creating a cocoon of artistry around the couple. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes!" The crowd erupted in cheers as Michael slipped the ring onto her finger. But the surprise wasn't over. The dancers moved into their final formation, holding up signs that together spelled out, "She said yes," in giant letters. As if on cue, the threatening rain clouds parted, sending rays of sunset light streaming through, creating a natural spotlight on the newly engaged couple. Among the crowd, Sarah spotted familiar faces, her parents, siblings, and close friends, all part of Michael's grand conspiracy. Even Dr. Martinez was there, discreetly wiping tears from his eyes. The dancers surrounded them, offering congratulations and sharing in the joy of a moment that transcended traditional boundaries of dance, ability, and love. Later that evening, as they celebrated with their loved ones at their favorite restaurant, Sarah couldn't stop staring at her ring. "You know what makes this perfect?" she asked Michael, her face glowing with happiness. "It's not just about us. You made it about everyone who's ever been told their love doesn't fit the mold." Michael squeezed her hand, watching as the black diamond caught the light. "That's what we do, isn't it? We show the world that love doesn't need permission to be beautiful." The video of their proposal went viral overnight, not just for its spectacular choreography, but for its powerful message about inclusive love. Dance companies around the world began sharing it, using it as an inspiration for their own inclusive performances. But for Sarah and Michael, the most beautiful part was how it captured their truth. That love, like dance, knows no boundaries when the heart leads the way. Wedding preparations and hidden plans. As spring bloomed in Atlanta, Sarah dove into wedding preparations with characteristic enthusiasm, unaware that beneath the surface of their shared plans, Michael was orchestrating what would become the most extraordinary moment of their lives. Their wedding was set for September 15th, giving them 6 months to create their perfect day. But for Michael, it meant 6 months to attempt the impossible. The morning after their engagement, while Sarah slept peacefully beside him, Michael made 2 crucial phone calls. The first was to Dr. James Chen, a pioneering specialist in spinal cord rehabilitation. The second was to Tony Martinez, a biomedical engineer known for developing cutting-edge mobility assistance devices. Both calls ended with the same response. It's risky, but not impossible. Sarah's days filled with venue visits, flower selections, and cake tastings. She chose the Atlanta Botanical Gardens for their ceremony, envisioning an outdoor celebration where nature itself would bear witness to their love. Michael supported every decision enthusiastically, but his mind often drifted to the secret sessions that filled his own schedule. 3 times a week, while Sarah thought he was attending routine physical therapy, Michael worked with Dr. Chen in a private facility outside the city. The program they developed was grueling, 4 hours of intensive therapy each session, pushing his body to limits that often left him exhausted and in pain. But Michael never complained. Each small victory, each inch of progress, brought him closer to his dream. Tony's contribution came in the form of specially designed leg braces, engineered to provide maximum support while remaining virtually invisible under a suit. The prototype fittings were scheduled during Sarah's weekly dinner dates with her sister Maya, who had become an unwitting accomplice in Michael's plan. Every adjustment, every modification was meticulously documented and refined. The wedding planning brought its own challenges. Sarah's mother insisted on traditional elements, while Michael's family pushed for accommodations that would make the celebration accessible for all guests. Sarah became their fierce advocate, ensuring every detail, from the seating arrangement to the dance floor, was inclusive. "Our wedding will celebrate all forms of love and ability," she declared during a particularly heated discussion with the venue coordinator. Meanwhile, Michael's secret support team grew. His physical therapy group became his cheerleaders, celebrating every milestone. The first time he stood for 10 seconds, then 30, then a full minute. Dr. Chen documented his progress with both professional pride and personal investment, often staying late to help Michael perfect his balance. There were close calls. One evening, Sarah surprised Michael at what she thought was his regular therapy session, bringing dinner. Quick thinking from his rehabilitation team led her to a different wing of the facility, while Michael hurriedly changed out of his training gear. That night, holding her close, the guilt of deception warred with his desire to give her an unforgettable wedding gift. 4 months into preparations, during a private fitting for his wedding suit, Michael stood for 5 minutes unassisted. The tailor, part of the growing circle of confidence, wept as she marked the measurements. "Mr. Roberts," she said, pinning his sleeve, "you're going to take everyone's breath away." The wedding details came together like a symphony. Sarah chose deep purple orchids, symbolizing admiration and strength. The invitations, designed by a local artist with cerebral palsy, featured a watercolor of 2 hands intertwined. Every element reflected their journey, beautiful not despite its challenges, but because of them. 2 months before the wedding, disaster struck. During a particularly intense therapy session, Michael experienced a severe muscle spasm that set his progress back significantly. Dr. Chen advised him to reconsider, concerned about the risks, but Michael's determination never wavered. "Every love story has its setbacks," he said through gritted teeth, starting his exercises again. "This is just one of ours." Sarah noticed his exhaustion, but attributed it to wedding stress and his regular therapy. She would massage his shoulders in the evenings, unknowingly soothing muscles strained from hours of standing practice. "I can't wait to be your wife," she would whisper, and in those moments, Michael's resolve strengthened even further. The final weeks were a blur of activity. While Sarah confirmed vendors and finalized seating charts, Michael spent every available moment in secret rehearsals. Tony made last-minute adjustments to the braces, now perfectly concealed under formal wear. Dr. Chen ran through the standing protocol countless times, ensuring Michael could execute it smoothly, even under pressure. Their wedding party grew into a covert operation team. The best man, James, practiced the subtle signals he would use to indicate when to begin. The bridesmaids memorized their positions, creating a natural barrier to block Sarah's view until the perfect moment. Even the wedding photographer was briefed, sworn to secrecy about the special equipment hidden beneath Michael's chair. 1 week before the wedding, Michael achieved what many had deemed impossible. He stood, unassisted, for the duration of their first dance song. In the privacy of Dr. Chen's facility, surrounded by his secret support team, Michael swayed to Etta James's voice, holding his arms in position, imaging Sarah within them. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. The night before their wedding, Sarah and Michael honored their tradition of sharing their deepest thoughts. "I'm not marrying you despite anything," Sarah said, her head resting on his shoulder. "I'm marrying you because of everything you are." Michael held her close, his heart racing with the knowledge of what tomorrow would bring. "You've given me so much," he replied softly. "Tomorrow, I give you something in return." As they parted for their last night as single individuals, Michael made one final call to Dr. Chen. "Everything's ready," the doctor assured him. "Tomorrow, you make history." Michael wheeled himself to the window, looking up at the stars. Years ago, he thought his accident had ended his story. Instead, it had led him to this moment, on the cusp of something extraordinary. The magical wedding morning dawn broke over Atlanta with a painter's touch, spreading hues of pink and gold across the September sky. Sarah stood at her hotel room window, watching the sun rise on her wedding day, her white silk robe catching the early morning light. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her morning coffee, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the day ahead. In the adjoining room, her mother, Patricia, had already begun directing the Glam Squad, a team of black women entrepreneurs Sarah had specifically chosen to support. The air filled with the familiar scents of coconut oil and hair products, mixing with the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries. The suite buzzed with activity as bridesmaids filtered in, their excitement palpable. Maya, Sarah's sister and maid of honor, approached with tears already forming in her eyes. "Girl, you're not allowed to make me cry before makeup," she laughed, pulling Sarah into a tight embrace. The sisters held each other, remembering their childhood dreams of this very day, though neither could have predicted its unique beauty. Across town, in a different hotel suite, Michael was already awake. Had been for hours, actually. His night had been restless, filled with both anticipation and anxiety about the surprise ahead. Dr. Chen had arrived early, conducting final checks on the mobility braces hidden beneath Michael's bed. James, his best man, stood guard at the door, ensuring no unexpected visitors would discover their secret preparations. Back in Sarah's suite, the transformation began. The makeup artist, a woman named Destiny who specialized in bringing out the natural beauty of darker skin tones, worked her magic. She enhanced Sarah's features while maintaining her natural glow, creating a look that would translate beautifully both in person and in photographs. The hairstylist, Ms. Carmen, who had been doing Sarah's hair since she was a child, took special care in creating an updo that incorporated both elegance and cultural elements. She wove tiny purple orchids, matching their wedding flowers, into the intricate design, each placement precise and meaningful. As the morning progressed, both suites became time capsules of emotion. In Sarah's room, her mother pulled out a small blue box. "Something old," she said softly, revealing her own mother's pearl earrings. Maya presented something new, a delicate anklet with a wheelchair charm, a subtle tribute to Michael. Her best friend Lauren offered something borrowed, a lace handkerchief that had been in her family for generations. The something blue came in the form of a tiny butterfly sewn into the hem of her dress, representing transformation and hope. Meanwhile, Michael underwent his own preparations with military precision. Dr. Chen and Tony conducted final adjustments to the braces, testing each mechanism multiple times. The process was painstaking, but Michael remained focused, his mind fixed on the moment ahead when he would stand before his bride. The wedding dress, a masterpiece of ivory silk and delicate lace, had been specifically designed to complement both Sarah's figure and Michael's seated height for most of the ceremony. What no one knew was that the designer had also created a hidden panel that would flow beautifully whether Michael was seated or standing. Sarah had attributed this detail to the designer's thoroughness, never suspecting its true purpose. As makeup was finished and hair was set, Sarah's grandmother, Big Mama, entered the suite. The room fell silent as the family matriarch approached her granddaughter. From her purse, she pulled out a worn Bible, opening it to reveal a pressed orchid. "Your grandfather gave me this on our wedding day," she explained, her voice rich with history. "He said love blooms in the most unexpected places." She pressed the fragile flower into Sarah's palm, sharing wisdom that spanned generations. In Michael's suite, his own family traditions unfolded. His father, typically stoic, helped him into his jacket with trembling hands. "Your mother would have been so proud," he whispered, referring to the woman they'd lost years ago. Michael gripped his father's hand, both men taking a moment to feel her presence in the room. The hours ticked by like minutes. Sarah's dress was carefully lifted over her head, the material floating down like a cloud around her. Her mother's gasped. Both Patricia and her mother-in-law-to-be had come to help with the final preparations. The dress hugged her curves perfectly before flowing out in a gentle A-line, the beadwork catching light like morning dew. An unexpected moment of peace descended as the makeup artist made final touches. Sarah caught her reflection in the mirror, not just a bride, but a woman who had chosen love over convention, strength over fear. Her dark skin glowed with joy, her eyes bright with anticipation. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the women who had shaped her life, Sarah felt the full weight of her journey. The photographers captured these parallel morning preparations, careful to document every detail while staying unobtrusive. In both suites, emotions ran high as the hours wound down. The bridesmaids dressed in flowing purple gowns, each styled to complement their individual figures while creating a harmonious group aesthetic. With 1 hour to go, Sarah received a text from Michael. "You've already given me the world. Today I give you my heart, completely, unreservedly, eternally." She clutched the phone to her chest, unaware that at that very moment, Michael was being helped into the mobility braces that would change their day forever. The final minutes of preparation took on an almost ethereal quality. Veils were adjusted, bouquets were distributed, and final touches were made. Sarah's father arrived, taking one look at his daughter before turning away to wipe his eyes. "Baby girl," he managed, his voice thick with emotion. "You're everything we dreamed you'd be and more." As the bridal party prepared to leave for the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, Sarah took one final look in the mirror. She saw reflected not just a bride, but a story of love that defied expectations. Her bouquet, a cascade of purple orchids and white roses, trembled slightly in her hands as she took a deep breath. The morning that had started with such anticipation was ending with pure magic. In separate vehicles, bride and groom headed toward their destiny, each carrying secrets. She, the depths of her love. He, the surprise that would take her breath away. The moment that changed everything. The Atlanta Botanical Gardens had been transformed into an enchanted paradise. The ceremony location, set in the Rose Garden, created a natural cathedral with blooming flowers as walls and the sky as the ceiling. Purple orchids draped from shepherd's hooks lining the aisle, their delicate petals dancing in the gentle Georgia breeze. Guests filled the seats, a beautiful tapestry of diversity, families, friends, colleagues, and supporters, all brought together by a love story that had touched their hearts. The wedding programs, printed in both standard text and braille, featured a quote that summed up Sarah and Michael's journey: "Love sees with the heart." Michael arrived first, as planned. His entrance was carefully orchestrated to conceal the technology that would make his surprise possible. His wheelchair had been decorated with subtle touches of purple and silver, matching the wedding's color scheme. Dr. Chen and Tony positioned themselves discreetly among the guests, ready to assist if needed. The string quartet began playing, their music floating through the garden like a gentle stream. One by one, the bridesmaids made their entrance, their purple dresses creating a flowing river of color down the aisle. Maya, as maid of honor, took her place last, giving Michael a subtle wink, their secret signal that everything was in place. Then the music changed. The first notes of "At Last" began to play, not the traditional wedding march, but the song that had become their anthem. The guests rose, turning toward the garden entrance. Time seemed to slow down as Sarah appeared on her father's arm. She was radiant. The sunlight caught the beading on her dress, creating a halo effect that made her appear to glow from within. Her bouquet of purple orchids complemented her dark skin perfectly, and her smile lit up the entire garden. Michael felt his heart stop for a moment, overwhelmed by her beauty and the magnitude of what was about to happen. As Sarah began her walk down the aisle, every eye was on her, except for those few conspirators who watched Michael with anticipation. Dr. Chen gave a subtle nod from his position, confirming that all systems were ready. The braces beneath Michael's tuxedo hummed quietly, prepared for their moment. Sarah's walk seemed both eternal and too quick. With each step, she took in the details around her, the loving faces of their guests, the perfect blue of the sky, the way Michael looked at her as if she were the only person in the world. What she didn't notice was James, the best man, carefully adjusting something behind Michael's wheelchair. When she reached the altar, Sarah handed her bouquet to Maya and turned to face Michael. The officiant, a friend who had supported their relationship from the beginning, smiled warmly at the couple. She began the ceremony with words they had carefully chosen together. Love knows no boundaries, no limitations, no constraints. The ceremony proceeded beautifully, with readings celebrating love in all its forms. Sarah and Michael had written their own vows, each speaking from the heart about their journey together. Michael's voice shook slightly, not just with emotion, but with anticipation of what was to come. Then came the moment they had all been waiting for. As the officiant announced them as husband and wife, Michael squeezed Sarah's hand, their signal throughout their relationship that something special was about to happen. What happened next would be forever etched in the memories of everyone present. With subtle movements that had been practiced hundreds of times, Michael activated the braces. James moved forward, providing the smallest amount of support as Michael, ever so slowly, began to rise from his wheelchair. A collective gasp swept through the audience. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief, but Michael wasn't done. As he reached his full height, supported by the nearly invisible braces, he took Sarah's hands in his. Tears streamed down her face as she realized what was happening. The months of secret therapy, the mysterious appointments, the extra hours of routine physical therapy. It all made sense now. "Sarah," Michael said, his voice carrying across the now silent garden, "you've always lifted me up. Today, I stand to show you that our love can make the impossible possible." There wasn't a dry eye in the garden as he drew her close, standing tall, before her for the first time in their relationship. The photographer captured every moment. Sarah's initial shock, the tears of joy streaming down both their faces, the look of pure love they shared as they stood together. The sunlight seemed to embrace them, casting a golden glow that made the moment even more magical. Their first kiss as husband and wife was unlike anything either had imagined. At the same height, standing together, defying every limitation that had ever been placed on their love. The garden erupted in applause and cheers, the sound carrying across the botanical gardens like a wave of joy. As they turned to face their guests, still standing together, Sarah whispered through her tears, "You never cease to amaze me." Michael's response was simple. "You make me want to achieve the impossible." The dance that moved everyone to tears. The reception space in the Atlanta Botanical Gardens Grand Ballroom had been transformed into an ethereal wonderland. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over purple and silver decorations, while projections of blooming orchids danced across the walls. But all eyes were fixed on the dance floor, where Sarah and Michael prepared for their first dance as husband and wife. The moment carried extra weight now. What guests had expected to be a seated, slow dance had become something far more significant. Dr. Chen stood discreetly at the edge of the dance floor, monitoring the brace's performance through a tablet, while Tony remained close by, ready to assist if needed. The entire room held its breath as Etta James's voice filled the air. At last, the legendary voice floated through the speakers as Michael and Sarah took their position. His braces, hidden beneath his tuxedo pants, whirred almost imperceptibly as he adjusted his stance. Sarah's dress shimmered in the spotlights, the hidden panel flowing perfectly as she stepped into his embrace. Their dance instructor, who had secretly worked with Michael during his rehabilitation, watched proudly as they began to sway. The movements they had practiced countless times came naturally now, a gentle rock, a slow turn, their bodies finding perfect harmony. Sarah's hand rested on Michael's shoulder while his held her waist, their other hands clasped together in a gesture that spoke of both support and partnership. Tears streamed freely down Sarah's face as they moved together. "I can't believe you did all this," she whispered. Michael's response was gentle. "I've been dreaming of dancing with you since the day we met." Their foreheads touched as they moved, creating an intimate bubble in a room full of people. The guests watched in awe as the couple executed a series of simple but beautiful turns. Michael's movements, while careful, showed no sign of strain. Months of preparation had made this moment possible. Sarah followed his lead naturally, her professional understanding of body mechanics helping her anticipate and complement his movements perfectly. As the song reached its crescendo, Michael attempted something they had practiced but never quite perfected: a gentle dip. Sarah's trust in him was absolute as she leaned back, his arms strong and sure around her. The photographer captured the moment perfectly: Sarah's joyful laugh, Michael's look of triumph, their love radiating through every gesture. Their wedding party watched through tears. Maya clutched her bouquet, remembering all the secret sessions she had helped cover up. James stood proud, knowing the role he had played in making this moment possible. Even Dr. Chen, usually stoic, wiped away tears as he monitored the technical aspects of Michael's mobility aids. The dance ended with another perfect turn, Michael drawing Sarah close as the final notes of "At Last" faded away. The ballroom erupted in applause and cheers, many guests rising to their feet in celebration, but the couple barely noticed. They were lost in their own world, foreheads pressed together, sharing breathless laughs and whispered words of love. What followed was a celebration that would be talked about for years to come. Other couples joined them on the dance floor, creating a beautiful tapestry of movement and joy. Michael alternated between standing for slow dances and using his wheelchair for faster numbers, each transition smooth and natural, each moment a celebration of adaptability and love. A legacy of love and hope. The video of Michael and Sarah's wedding went viral within days, but not for the reasons they might have expected. Yes, the moment Michael stood was powerful, but what captured hearts worldwide was the pure love story behind it, a testament to determination, acceptance, and the power of seeing beyond society's limitations. Their story sparked conversations globally about love, ability, and perception. Major news networks picked up the story, featuring interviews with the couple about their journey. But what mattered most to Michael and Sarah was how their wedding inspired others to push beyond perceived limitations. In the months following their wedding, they established the Roberts Foundation for Inclusive Love, an organization dedicated to supporting couples facing similar challenges. The foundation provided grants for adaptive wedding equipment, funded research into mobility assistance devices, and offered counseling services for couples navigating relationships across ability boundaries. Their work expanded beyond weddings. Sarah's experience as a physical therapist, combined with Michael's journey, led to innovations in rehabilitation therapy. They developed programs that integrated emotional support with physical recovery, understanding that healing involves both body and spirit. The dance studio where Michael had secretly practiced opened an inclusive dance program, with Sarah and Michael as honorary directors. Couples from across the country came to learn not just how to dance, but how to adapt and create their own beautiful movements, regardless of physical limitations. Michael returned to photography with renewed purpose, creating a series titled Love in Motion that captured couples of all abilities sharing intimate moments. His work was featured in galleries nationwide, challenging perceptions of romance and disability through his lens. Their home became a gathering place for couples seeking hope and guidance. Over Sunday brunches and evening gatherings, Sarah and Michael shared their story, offered support, and built a community of people who believed in love's power to transcend all barriers. On their first anniversary, they renewed their vows in a private ceremony. This time, Michael stood throughout the entire service, a testament to his continued dedication to physical therapy and the advancement of mobility assistance technology. But more importantly, it was a reminder that their love continued to grow stronger with each passing day. The Roberts Foundation expanded to include educational programs in schools, teaching young people about inclusion, acceptance, and the many forms love can take. Sarah and Michael became regular speakers at universities, medical conferences, and rehabilitation centers, sharing their expertise while always emphasizing the human aspect of their journey. Their story inspired changes in the wedding industry itself. Vendors began offering more inclusive services, venues improved accessibility, and wedding magazines featured more diverse couples. The ripple effect of their love story touched countless lives, creating paths for others to follow. As they approached their second year of marriage, Sarah and Michael discovered they were expecting their first child. The news brought both joy and new opportunities to advocate for parents with disabilities. Their journey into parenthood would become another chapter in their ongoing story of breaking barriers and defying expectations. Today, the Roberts continue to build their legacy of love. Their foundation has helped hundreds of couples celebrate their own love stories without limitation. Their commitment to each other grows stronger with each challenge they face and each victory they celebrate. Their wedding video, which continues to circulate on social media, carries a simple message in its description. Love knows no boundaries. These 4 words, lived out through their daily example, continue to inspire people around the world to look beyond physical limitations and societal expectations to find their own paths to joy. Sarah and Michael's love story remains a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of seeing the person, not the circumstance, and a reminder that with love, determination, and support, the impossible becomes possible. Their legacy isn't just about a magical wedding day, it's about showing the world that true love has no limits, no boundaries, and no end. Dear reader, Sarah and Michael's story has touched hearts across the world, showing us that love knows no boundaries. We'd love to know how their journey resonated with you. If their story moved you, please hit the subscribe button below, share where you're reading from in the comments. Tell us what touched you most about